people want things to, oh, I just want it to flow. And if it's not flowing, then, oh, that means it must not be right. It must not be for me. But the thing is, if you're trying to get a boulder rolling downhill, you want it to just go, but there's some oomph you got to give it first. And most people go, oh, this isn't flowing. I guess I'm not going to do it. This is too hard. I'm going to
Yeah.
mess up. But if you hang on a little longer and you give it a little more oomph, it goes.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time.
Thanks for being here today on the podcast. I'm super excited.
Me too. Me too. Life right now, Allison. Life's amazing.
You're all over the place traveling right now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm on Oahu right now, about like a 5-minute walk from Waikiki Beach.
In
And
Hawaii?
yeah,
Oh. So
yeah,
do you know anybody there, or you're just like checking out everywhere?
I'm just here. I'm meeting people, which is fun. Like I met like 3 people yesterday where it was just like serendipitous, perfect, awesome connections, and it was so cool. Just
That's awesome.
out of nowhere. And
Just
exactly. Like, and even this morning I woke up, I parked my van right on the beach
yeah,
and had breakfast with watching the sunrise and the waves come in, and I was giggling the whole time.
it's just like a dream. Like that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's like everything I wanted when I started on this journey it's right here.
Like it's happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, I know that you are a formal musical theater actor turned life coach and the future oldest person to climb El Capitan. I know that that's one of your goals. And you really help clients get to the root cause of their procrastination so that they can just lead their team and their business or life in pride and have freedom to have fun. And we recently worked together. You have helped me a lot, and I was like, "I've got to have been on the podcast." Just so fun, and, like, the way that you have helped me, there's not really a way to put it into words, and so I'm like, "I just need him to come here and talk," right? But, yeah, welcome to the podcast. I would love to hear about how you made this transition to what you do now and your story and what got you to where you are.
Yeah, wow. So, yeah, I mean, it honestly started because I thought being a personal trainer would be a great side gig for my musical theater career. Turns out that I was very inaccurate with that. It takes about as much work to be an actor as it does to be a personal trainer. But I started getting pulled more in that direction. Like that was more what I was interested in. And that's where all my free time was going, was coaching and learning more about fitness. To the point where I decided at the same time, after also being fed up with living in New York City, I wanted to pull my hair out at the thought of going back there after I'd left to do a couple shows. And it was right then that I decided I'm gonna coach, because this is how I can get out of New York City. And
Yeah.
I did a coaching program to help me with the business side because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I thought I just could teach people how to squat and make $1 million, you know? That's how it
Yeah.
works, right? And I, that my coach, as much as he helped me with the business, he also helped me with my mindset around the business because that
Yeah.
is as important, if not more so. And I started using those tools with my clients because they would say some things and I'd be like, I can't unhear that. We got to talk about that. Like, forget about this workout. And they stopped bringing their fitness equipment to our calls. So, because they realized, yeah, we're talking about more important stuff here. And
Yeah.
I realized then that I could make a much bigger impact this way than helping people with fitness. And that started me on this adventure of like I took everything online, switched over to just life coaching and moved into my car and I lived nomadically for 2 years. And it was amazing, like taking coaching calls from mountaintops. I'd like shut down for the day, like, oh, here's a trail. Just go run this trail that's right off my campsite. And it was amazing. And it did get to the point though where it wasn't growing the way I needed it to.
Yeah.
And, often in business, if you're not growing, you're dying. So what I didn't realize I was doing is I was trying to make the perfect plan. Because here's the thing, I'm not really known as a procrastinator. Like, I'm known for speed of implementation, I get shit done, and so I never even thought about myself that way. And then I ended up without any clients for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm doing the things I know are supposed to work. I just need this perfect plan, and then I'd be able to, like, really market myself. But I couldn't find it. I couldn't figure it out. And then I made a big investment in another coaching program that didn't pan out. I ended up 20K in the hole for that and couldn't pay rent and ended up having to get 2 side jobs. I was an overnight baker at a coffee shop and I worked at Stretch Lab. So I'd bake bagels from and muffins from 2:30 in the morning to 11 and then go stretch people for another 4 hours after that. And it was, oh god, it was miserable. But, that was like the worst thing I could imagine was, oh, I'd have to go back and get a job and lose all this freedom. And now I'm
Yeah.
here. What do I do? So
Right.
that's when I hired Matt Shiver, who we both work with, to help me to figure out what's going on here. And once he gave me the plan, then it hit me of like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. I knew how to do this already. I could have been doing this the whole time. What was I
Right.
doing? I was being a perfectionist because I
Yeah.
I definitely have that. I know full well that I can be a perfectionist sometimes. And
Guilty as well.
yeah, you want to get it right. Everyone wants to get it
Yeah.
right. And as I started following his method, I started seeing how I had been procrastinating on so many things in both my business and my personal life. And when I shifted all my focus to, well, I bet I can help people with this, like everything took off. And suddenly I finally had like people commenting on my videos going like, "Oh my gosh, like I feel so seen. Like, how do you know this about me? Like, I never thought
Right.
about it this way before. Wow." And like everything like business, personal, spiritual, everything took off from that
Right.
point to the point where now I've been like specifically focusing like 'cause I've been like coaching for almost 7 years now, specifically focusing on procrastination for 2 years. And I'm at the point now where, like, after I joined that program with Shiver, I think I quit. I joined in January. I quit the bakery in February, quit Stretch Lab in April of that year. Been working for myself ever since. And we're doing this call. I'm in Hawaii now. I'm here
Yeah.
for 5 weeks and
That's
still
awesome.
working, still running my business. It's still growing. And life is amazing. And I'm geeking out about it all the time.
Yeah.
So that's how
I
I got
love
here.
that. Thank you for sharing your story. And I think it's so relatable. Like, just as a mom, as somebody who does own a business, as somebody who's been like on her own health journey, Like, I can relate to that in so many ways, and, like, your career path was, like, musicals, Broadway, like, doing that, right? Like, we all have, like, a set plan of how things are gonna go, and, like, we go down that path, and then we realize, like, maybe that's not what we're meant to do right now, and we start doing what we think we're supposed to do, but then we, like, get stuck. And it's like, even, like, in motherhood, especially, I'm just thinking about, like, as a new mom or something, you're, like, trying to do all these things, and, like, as a female, like, I can just relate to that, but, like, as a business owner too, right? Like, just not knowing what to do the right way and thinking you're doing the right thing, but you're really just doing, like, a million different things, and then, like you said, like, pointing out that you didn't really realize you were procrastinating, but you weren't really doing, like, the right thing either. That is, like, to me, like, when I realized I was doing that with so many areas of my life too, I was, like, mind blown. I was like, "I have been running around like a chicken with my head cut off." And it's so much more about, like, doing less, but doing, like, higher quality things instead of, like, all the things, and, like, being confident on that decision, right? That's a big thing.
There we
I'm
go.
curious I'm curious though, like, whenever you realized like, what was that like whenever you realized, like, I haven't really been procrastinating, but, like, I haven't been doing exactly, like, what's best for me in my business or my life right now? Like, what was the big light bulb moment for you?
The the big light bulb moment came when honestly my girlfriend at the time, because I'd been struggling for a while, and she said, you know, maybe this coaching thing isn't for you. Like, when we look at all our friends, like, so and so is the most solid of our friends, and like he's the only one with a regular job. Everyone else is trying to do this entrepreneur thing and it's not working. So like maybe this isn't the path for you. And that
Yeah.
really hurt to hear. I mean, at the same time, I totally understood why she said that because I was
Yeah.
I was definitely not showing up as a future provider for a family.
Well, it's like you definitely needed to hear it, but
Yeah.
it's painful.
Yeah. Yeah. And but the thing is, I looked at at this and I was like, you know what? I can do hard things. And this has not been hard enough for long enough yet.
Yes, I remember you telling me that at one point.
Yeah,
Like
that's a story that I bring up a lot of the time. A lot of times in decision confidence training because so often, people want things to, oh, I just want it to flow. And if it's not flowing, then, oh, that means it must not be right. It must not be for me. But the thing is, if you're trying to get a boulder rolling downhill, you want it to just go, but there's some oomph you got to give it first. And most people go, oh, this isn't flowing. I guess I'm not going to do it. This is too hard. I'm going to
yeah,
mess up. But if you hang on a little longer and you give it a little more oomph, it goes.
right.
And I knew that I was right there at like that crux moment where like, if I push a little further on this, I can do it. I can get it going. I know I can. I just needed a little help, a little like someone to point me in the right direction. Also, to like you were talking about running around with a chicken with my head cut off. I just needed someone to tell me where to start.
Yes. Yeah,
That
that for me, like, whether it's been, like, with like I was mentioning, like, in my business or, like, with my own health issues, whatever it was, like, I've always said, "Okay, I get to the point where I feel like I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall." Like, I'm trying all these things, and they might work for a little bit, but then it's like, which path do I decide to, like, put that extra oomph into, right? Like, how do I know what the right thing to do is? And when you're so overwhelmed by everything, that's when it for me at least, it's like, I just wanna check out,
Mhm.
but I don't give up on things, and so that's hard too. So, what is your biggest go-to tip for somebody who's just, like, overwhelmed by everything? Like, and they're trying
Yeah.
to improve said situation?
Yeah. The overwhelm, is coming from, there's too many things. There's all these things you could be doing. And your brain can only really focus on one thing at a time. Even people who think they're multitasking, you're just switching your focus back and forth. really fast. And maybe you're pretty good at that, but that's still exhausting and
Yeah.
eventually is going to burn you out. So the thing that I always go to is, what is the one thing that if you did it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? What's that one thing? And then everything else goes in the parking lot. It's not as important
Yeah.
as that one thing. Because what I've been saying a lot recently is you can do it all one thing at a time.
Right.
And that's
Yes.
where, like, the tool that I know we put some extra work into, buckets and shot glasses, came
Yes.
in, because I remember one morning going, "Wow, I'm really overwhelmed. There's all of this stuff." And I sat down and I just wrote it all down first. And then I looked at it again. I was like, "Oh, there's categories here. What happens if I, like, put everything into categories?" And then when I saw it in categories, I realized, oh, there's some of these things I actually like. There were 3 different books I wanted to read. Like, I can't read all 3 of these at once. Pick one. And I
Yeah.
realized there were other things that I was getting overwhelmed about doing that were, like, step 3. And I was overwhelmed because I was thinking about doing 1, 2, and 3 when I hadn't even done 1 yet.
Yeah.
So that's when I separated again into, okay, well, what is the first thing I can do from this bucket? And that's when
Right.
I was like, well, a shot glass, can't put much in a shot glass. It's just one thing. And
Yeah.
then once I did that, I was like, oh, this is suddenly way more manageable. This is,
Yeah.
and I was able to get all of that list done really easily when I narrowed my focus to one thing at a time. And one thing at a time, stacked on top of itself a whole bunch of times, you get it all done.
Yeah, and that tool has been really helpful for me. It took me a while, but because I get so overwhelmed easily, but that has been super helpful. And I'm curious, what do you see as far as like one of the biggest reasons why you see people procrastinate or why they think that they're procrastinating on something?
Yeah. So here,
Whether
this,
they call it that or not. Like,
yeah, so the reason people there's I like how you said that, because there's why people think they're procrastinating, and then there's why they're really procrastinating. And people think that they're lazy, they're not disciplined, they don't have good time management, or something like that, they'll blame ADHD.
yeah. Yeah.
And the real reason that they're procrastinating is they're they're afraid they're going to fail. If they fail, they'll be super embarrassed. If they fail, they're gonna let everyone else down. They'll lose their business, they'll lose their house, none of their family will talk to them anymore, and then they'll just end up homeless and alone.
And part of
That's
that, I would imagine, is, like, not just failure, but, like, not doing it perfect.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is,
Yeah.
if it's not it's this all or nothing of, if it's not perfect, then it's a failure, why bother if it's not
Yeah.
gonna be perfect?
Have been guilty of that too.
I just
A lot
Me
better
too.
about it now, though, so much better about it.
Yeah,
But
hey, that's been cool. Is coaching procrastination has made me a ninja about my own procrastination. Like, someone asked me, like, "Are you over it now?" I was like, "No, I'm not over it. I'm just really good at catching myself now."
right. Well, and I think, like, working with you too, like, it's so much of it is, just realizing, like, where you're at with your thoughts. Like, it's all so much of a mindset thing, but I know that one thing that you talk about so much is just, like, making fun the point of things, like, have fun, and I love that because it's like, don't take yourself so seriously? It's been very helpful for me because there's so many things that it's like you could freak out about or lose your cool about or get overwhelmed about, like, things that are pretty serious, but at the same time in the long run, it's like, just make it light.
Well, and the thing is with fun, especially, is most of the things that people use as procrastination, they're really trying to have fun. Like, when you, like, finish something stressful, like, "Oh, I'll just decompress by scrolling Instagram." You're not actually decompressing,
Yeah,
and that's bottom shelf fun.
right.
It's not like you're not going to tell anyone about, oh my God, I was scrolling on TikTok for 3 hours and it was a blast. You're not
Right.
going to tell anyone about that because it's not actually that fun.
Yeah.
It's a waste. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your attention when there's top shelf fun, like the stuff where you go, oh my God, that was so much fun. And time flies by and it's been like 4 hours and you have no idea that you've been having this much fun for that long. And when you do that, the fulfillment you get from that makes it easier to sit down to a task that you weren't motivated for before
Yeah.
because you've filled your cup there. Like I had a situation where I was working with a dad and he was like, yeah, I'm trying to get my kids to like help around the house. And it's really stressful because they just want to play all the time. And I was like, well, what you're saying you have to do the chores first and then play. What if you played first and then did the chores? And I mean, he looked at me like I was crazy, but he's like, I'll give it a shot. And he gets on the next call. He's like, Ben, I just had a Nerf war all around the house with my kids. And then we cleaned the kitchen together. And it was so easy. Yeah. Cause you had, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like having dessert first, you had
Yeah.
the
Why not?
fun first and that made the tedious thing easier as opposed to if you're already not having fun, doing something else that's boring and tedious is so much harder
Yeah, that's
because
right.
there's that little kid in you that just wants to go outside and play.
Right. I'm curious, like, what what would you say to somebody if they don't know how to have that, like, top shelf fun? Because, I mean, if you like, I'm just thinking of myself, like, mom of 3, running my own business, like, it's so easy for me to forget what having fun just, like, by myself is. Like, it's a constant thing I have to remind myself to, like, try to figure out. So I'm sure I mean, I'm hoping I'm not the only one.
Oh, the, the thing that I find it happens so often. It's like, oh yeah, what do you do for fun? Uh, I'm like, you want that
Like,
to be a faster answer. Like
yeah, like,
if you
right.
actually knew, if you knew how to have fun, you would immediately say something. There's two questions I like to ask around this. Is the first one is, what did you do for fun as a kid? What was playtime for you? And that could look any number of ways, like playing in the woods, coloring, playing with dolls, building Legos. It could be any of those things. Like, let's start there. Like, go buy a set of Legos, or
Yeah,
like you might still have your Legos from when you were younger. Like, pull those out and like build something.
yeah,
Or the other question is, what's the thing that you think is too silly to do?
yes,
Because I
okay.
find often people put fun, and I even kind of did it with saying like dessert first. Like fun is some like treat that you get after you've done all the important stuff.
Right,
But fun is vital for human happiness and development. And there's all kinds of science we can talk about how negatively a lack of fun as a child impacts adults.
yes,
But that that thing that you think is too silly is you judging your own desires, you judging the thing that would actually be really fun.
yes, oh, yes. I mean, I'm like, that's the word for it, yeah, like, I can't I'm, like, trying to think right now, what do I think is something too silly? I don't know, like, off the top of my head, but I need to think about that because I know I've been there before, though, and thought about that, and yeah, it's like you're judging yourself, for sure.
Well, because I think this is like I like this example specifically for fun is so many people who are working to improve themselves. They're like listening to podcasts and they're reading self-help books and all this stuff. Like, oh, look, if I read, I want to be productive. And like, I like learning and like learning is that's fun for me. Is like, yeah, the like that doesn't really fill the bucket either. But
Right.
like so many, especially in the entrepreneurial world, so
Yeah.
many people think that reading fiction is a waste of time, but that that fiction reading, a fantasy series or science fiction, that is what gives you the respite. It gives you the space.
Mhm.
It rejuvenates you enough for you to then come back around and do that important thing.
Right. I love that you mentioned that though, because this is something the past few months I've been working on, and my entire adult life been one of those kind of people who's like, for fun, I work out, or for fun, I do read a self-help book. Like that's me, like all day long, like I don't watch TV. Like I'm literally always doing something that is benefiting me more so. Like, I mean, obviously having fun, it does too, but you know what I'm saying? So, I have realized though, because this season of my life has kinda slowed down, the kids are busier, but, like, all other external things have slowed down. So, I'm having more time with myself, and I'm like, "Oh," like, I catch myself saying, "How can I be more productive? What can I do?" But also telling myself, like, "Okay, Allison, like, just rest, just have fun and slow down," because, like, I've caught myself getting burnt out before. And, like, before bed every night, I'm like, "Read a fiction book. Do not read, like, a self-help book or whatever." Like, I even tell my clients that, like, "If you're gonna read before bed, like, make sure it's, like, a fiction book or something." But I've also considered watching TV. Because I can't tell you, I didn't even know how to turn our TV on until a couple of years ago. But
Good for you.
I don't even know what's on TV right now. But I was like, "You know what? Like, that might be fun. I don't know." And it's so s like, to me, that's so silly because it's just TV, but to me, I'm like, there might be some fun in that. I don't know the last time I sat and watched a movie. I don't know the last time I sat still long enough to watch a movie. Unless I'm, like, working. So, yeah. Uh,
And it's right what you said. That might be fun. Let's find out.
yeah.
Because that's kind of bringing it back is that's another reason often why people procrastinate is uncertainty. Well, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to be fun. So that too freezes them and then they don't
Right.
do anything.
But, yeah, and maybe they think they don't have time or that it's not, like, worth the time. But I'm finding now that I have more space on my schedule that I'm like, I wanna use my time wisely, and I'm learning that it's not always more wise to just go, go, go. So,
Yeah. And let me
yeah.
tell you, if you're someone who's into personal growth, there are some spiritual, metaphysical truths in fantasy and science fiction books that will rock your world. Like, specifically, I'm thinking Wheel of Time and Stormlight Archives, Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson.
Okay.
Whoa, a lot of
All those birds, oh my
pigeons. Just
goodness.
it's this is the New York City of Hawaii. There's pigeons everywhere and chickens, which is really funny. But there's so many moments reading those books where I'm like, whoa, I need to write that down. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it and such a great perspective, and it comes from I just saw a sign that says, "Don't feed feral chickens."
Okay, good to
That's
know.
hilarious.
When you go
That's
to
hilarious.
Hawaii, don't
You
feed
know
the
what?
little
Don't feed the
chickens.
feral chickens, they're feral. But so many moments reading those books where I'm like, "Wow, this is like a life lesson right here."
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
And
read those
it's
books.
oh my good Wheel of Time, everybody, Wheel of Time. It's 14 books and it's worth it. Like that's a you wanna go on an adventure, that series will take you on an adventure. It's incredible. And you will
Okay.
learn so much. You will learn so much about yourself, about the world. There's so much in those books, the depth, the specificity, all of it. And it's a fiction book. Some guy made it all up.
Yeah,
And it
that's
that would
interesting.
fall under the like, oh, the frivolous, I'll do that in my free time. Like, no, make that important.
Right. Yeah. And gosh, that is interesting. So you also have said before, like that a lot of your work, it involves helping people like clean up decisions that their parents made with them. What have you seen the most, I guess, from people that's like a childhood trauma that has carried on?
Yeah. A lot of the time, it had like, especially the perfectionism aspect comes from school and how their parents responded if they got
Mhm.
any less than an A on their report card. I work
Okay.
with a lot of former straight A students who are
Interesting.
now procrastinators. And it's because, one, they only got praise when they achieved something.
Yeah.
And, that's not like I wouldn't even call that their parents messing up or making a mistake.
Right.
It's, you want to encourage your kid when they do something good, when they achieve, they win the game or they get an
Yeah.
A plus. It's like, yeah, yeah, you want to encourage them. But often that was the only time that those kids got encouragement. That's the only time they got attention.
Mhm.
And if they lost, if they missed the shot, if they got a B or a C, it was either nothing or punishment.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, there's also, I've worked with so many men who have like a story about a time where their mom told them to clean their room and then it wasn't to her standard. And she was like, why did you half-ass this? Like, if you're not gonna do it right, why bother? Like, do it again.
Mm.
There's so many, especially I see it show up with men, like this "Don't tell me what to do, mom" story.
Yeah. And I can
And
see how that would play a part in future situations.
yeah, it's like that's the what they learn is like, "Oh, if it's not perfect, if it's not up to whatever standard, then it's not worth it. I'm not worth it. I'm a loser." And that can go either way. It can turn into you just never reach your potential and kind of fly under the radar for the rest of your life, or it can turn into, you're this hyper high performer who has to do everything right, has to do everything perfect with this kind of existential or else in the back of your head.
Mm. Yeah.
The or else being feeling shame from one of your parents.
Yeah.
So I find that happens a lot to then
Interesting.
like breed essentially procrastinators.
Yeah. That's interesting because I mean, I'm sure it then presents, when they're older and, work life stuff. And even I'm sure their wives point it out because it causes problems in their marriage. So it's like, do you want it to be a life lesson or a wife lesson? So at some
I like
point,
that.
you gotta work on yourself like that. So, if you could give future parents or current parents, like, a piece of advice to help their kids thrive, what would it be?
Encourage your children in what they're interested in instead of telling them what they should be interested in.
Yeah.
I know
Okay,
I've
good.
like, especially as a musical theater performer, I met so many people and still do to this day who are like, "Oh yeah, I was a theater kid growing up, but my parents made me go to school to be a doctor." Like that could have been a future Tony Award winner, star of Broadway right there. You made them
Yeah.
go into debt and run themselves ragged in medical school. What the hell?
And be controlled by
Um,
big pharma and all that fun stuff.
yeah, and I mean, and it's so funny because we praise artists, and artists when like at the highest level make oodles of money, have wonderfully successful lives most of the time. Who knows what's going on behind closed doors. But then if your kid wants to get into that, oh no, you got to do something that's going to be like sustainable, is going to support a family and stuff like that. It's like, well, what if it supports a family, but I'm dead inside
Right.
because I had like all my joy and my curiosity and my imagination squashed
And the fun, like,
and the
it
fun.
takes the fun out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then even too, it's like you think of a little kid who's interested in something that's such a vulnerable thing. This
Mhm.
theater especially is super vulnerable. And if that then is like that vulnerable thing is then cast aside by the parent, that's heartbreaking.
Yes.
for a kid. And and the reason that I say that with, encourage your kids to do what they're interested in is because that's what my parents did. I was homeschooled until high school. So, like, even when I was in high school, I was like, "Well, this is stupid. None of this matters." But, even when I was thinking about becoming an actor, my mom was like, Hey, that's great. I totally support you. Like, you like science, you like biology too. Like, just make sure that you explore that. Make sure you
Right.
think about that." She offered that to me so that I didn't just get zeroed in that it has to be this one thing. And, it ended up being at least the thing that I thought I wanted to do, but I was supported every single step of the way. My parents drove me to college auditions. When I was growing up, they drove me to rehearsals. They came to see all my shows. Like, I was always supported the whole time. And
Yeah.
what that has taught me is that I can follow my passions.
Yeah.
Because then even when I realized theater wasn't the thing that I wanted to do full time to as a career, it was sad to leave, but I wasn't scared of, like, ruining something, or that if
Right.
I turn hard left here, that I'm just gonna, like, make a mistake and destroy my dreams.
Well,
I will
because
I
your parents were so supportive.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that taught me to be supportive of myself.
Yeah.
So then whenever I am faced with a big decision, I have the confidence to go into that decision because I know how to support myself. And what decision confidence really is, it's not knowing what the right decision is. It's making a decision and trusting that you can handle whatever happens next.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
decision confidence. And that's how that was ingrained in me, is having parents who supported my interests every step of the way.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm like, "Okay, I need to take notes." I mean, as a mama, I'm like, I definitely want to set my kids up for the best, right?
Yeah. Well, and the
So
thing is too, I I think that because, like, with this work, it can often sound like blaming the parents, but it's not. It's because the parents are always really well intentioned.
oh, yeah,
Like,
it's
no
so
parent is
much of
like, "Well,
it.
I'm gonna be a dick and tell you that you can't be a singer." No, the
Right.
parent wants to set the child up for success. It's always so well intentioned. That's why they're doing it. They're not doing it because 'cause they're bad people.
Right.
And the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And, when a small child who is, under 7, their brain doesn't have logic yet. They just they're a sponge. They're just taking everything in.
Yeah, is how it's interpreted or how for whatever reason, they might remember it. Like, you might remember something as a child, and that might not literally be how it happened, but that's how it's ingrained, and yeah.
Exactly. Because I mean, evolutionarily, you have to. You've gotta, like, be able to be a self-sufficient member of the tribe really quickly because you're on the move. There's lions, you gotta be ready for that. So you have to learn fast. And that's why kids pick this stuff up so quick. That's
Yeah,
why they're so perceptive. They're so sensitive to those things. And they're not conscious enough yet to know that.
right.
So all they're doing is just taking in information. There's a great poem called This Be the Verse. And the first line is, "They fuck you up, your parents do." It's like, no matter how good of a parent you are, you're going to do something innocuous. Like, I've got a friend who,
Yes.
when she was younger, her dad would joke when they were going over a bridge. He's like, "Oh, I hope they finish the other side." And she grew up not trusting men.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe
Innocuous
it.
dad joke.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not that you're a bad parent. It's like you had no idea that this one thing here down the road was gonna cause this.
Yeah, exactly. I was telling a friend of mine who's got kids, and they're younger than my kids. I was like, "Look, you can only control what you can control. Like, your kids are gonna have trauma from you no matter what you do. Like, I can try to be the best mom I can, but something's going to come across somewhere, some point, at some time where my kids are gonna be like, 'Mom, like, when I was a kid, like, this always happened, and, like, that's why.'" XYZ. Like that's just gonna happen. So I think accepting that though has made me more forgiving of myself for sure. But
And if as much as they're gonna say those things, they're also gonna say, "Thank you so much, mom, for this. Thank you for
yes,
this. Thank you for
yes,
this." Because like, that's what I've seen is as much as, yeah, there are things that I've had to kind of rework in myself that I picked up from how I was raised. There's so much more where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much
right.
for teaching me this. Like, you didn't even know you were doing it, but you did it. Thank
Yeah,
you, because
yeah,
I'm so happy with that lesson."
right. Yeah. So Ben, you work with all kinds of people. Where do most of your clients come from? Like what kind of people do you work with
Yeah.
mostly?
Yeah, mostly it's business owners and team leaders who, are like you're either own the business or you're high up in the business where like you've got people you're responsible for and you have big decisions to make that
Mhm.
impact other people in the company. That's
Yeah.
that's what I find that like those are the kinds of people who work the best in my program. And that's also who I really, really enjoy working with. And it's because they're people who really know what they want. They know what they want and they're committed to getting it.
Yeah.
Like I ended a call recently with someone who was thinking of signing up for the program because he just like he I was like, what do you want to achieve? He's like, oh, I can't really answer that. I was like, I can't really help you then. Cause like
Yeah.
you don't even know where you want to go. I can't pick that for you.
Right.
And like he also like because of that, he wasn't really committed to making change.
Right. Right.
So I found that, business owners, entrepreneurs, team leaders are really committed to making change and they know exactly what change they want to make and they know what they want their life to look like. Like they have a vision. There is something on the horizon that they really, really want, like financial freedom, the ability to
Mhm.
travel whenever they want, to be able to be present with their family instead of thinking about work all the time.
Right.
Those kinds of things. Those people take off once
Yeah.
once they start decision confidence training. It's so cool to watch.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Ben, if people want to learn more about what you do, I know they can find you on Instagram at Ben Joy Walker. And is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today? This has been a really fun conversation.
Yeah, I love this one because this is from a fiction book. You can't be careful on a skateboard.
I like it. I like it. It reminds me whenever kids are doing something dangerous and you're like, be careful. What
Like,
does that
no, if
mean?
you're being careful, you're like probably more likely to wipe out. Be specific, be careful. I don't know what that means.
Careful with what?
And yeah, exactly. And like for me personally, because I do some stuff that would be pretty edgy for most people. I'm a rock climber. One of the safest sports, I gotta say, especially after my surfing experience. Way easier to get messed up surfing than it is rock climbing.
Oh gosh.
Is my careful is not the same as yours.
Right.
Like you have no concept of what actually being on your edge is. I'm nowhere near mine. Don't tell me to be careful. You don't
Yeah.
know what it is. And just be careful. Like that's the thing. I don't really know what that means. It could be hold on tight or, watch where you want to go as opposed to instead of hitting the people, watch where you want to go. Like
Mhm.
say specifically what you want them to do. And I mean,
Mm,
brings around another quote I use all the time is generality is the enemy of all art.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's why things like that fall flat because they're not specific. I don't actually know what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
that ambiguity creates anxiety, uncertainty, and procrastination.
Yeah. And that's why we're here. I mean,
Yeah. So be dangerous and be specific. There you
I
go.
like it. I like it. Well, Ben, this has been so fun. I'm super jealous of you being in Hawaii right now.
Come on
I
over.
love it. I'll have to see some pictures that you post. I'm sure you'll post some pictures of the chickens and stuff. But
Yes. Yeah.
this has been really cool. Thanks so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Allison.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.